us in our efforts to raise funds and to disperse those funds. And just thank you for blessing our club and our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Joel. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a really fast Rotary minute.
He also chewed me out of
Yeah, we settled on it after it looks really good.
Oh, I didn't put anything bad.
All right, you want to make your way back to your seats.
How you doing, young man?
Good, fine.
I think that was actually a Rotary minute.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have a quick song by Mommy.
Grand Lake. There is not a lot of songs written about Grand Lake, but there is a song written about something grand. So, Mr. Walters, pull up our words. Here we go. Oh, we know this one and we can sing it fast. Are you ready? I think we should stand while we sing here. Thank you. Here we go. You're a grand old flag. You're a high-flying flag. And wherever you may pray, you're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Well, every heart beats true with the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Should all acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag.
That was great. Thank you, Annette. Your Sergeant at Arms today is Judy McHenry. Holy cow.
That might have been a record. I saw 3 people clap. So today is Guess the Rotarian. So I'm going to give you guys some clues about a Rotarian. You're going to see if you can guess who it is. Our first one won at the Delaware County Fair for the best bug collection. They also were searched at the Canadian border for gun smuggling.
Darren Cook.
They also tackled an OSU offensive lineman. I would stay clear of this Rotarian. Does anyone have a guess who it might be?
Ben Hampton.
Nobody. Would this Rotarian please stand? Lindsay Crane. Stay clear of her. Okay, this Rotarian eats dessert first before the meal because they always want to have room for more. So did you guys look around at who you were sitting with today? Went to college to become a teacher, but changed their major their junior year while substituting high school kids. Was voted the friendliest in their senior year in Who's Who. Any guesses? Would this Rotarian please stand? Clarissa Allen. Okay, this Rotarian learned to operate a backhoe in college. Was the starter at the state swim meet championships. Was a presidential appointee by George W. Bush. Can make the best ribs in the Grand Lake area. Do we have any guesses? Would you please stand, Rotarian? Dick Seibel. Okay, this Rotarian owns 2 dogs, and their combined weight is less than 10 pounds. They can place an IV and give you a tracheotomy, but is not a licensed healthcare professional. Competed on the OSU rowing team. Cried only twice in their life, at their wedding and after riding Wildfire at Silver Dollar City. Anybody have any guesses? Would this Rotarian please stand? Get in, Carper! There you go. Those are your Rotarians.
That's great. Thank you, Judy. Your Rotarian of the day is Bud Jeffers, and I don't believe he is here, so we'll skip that. If you see him, tell him thank you. Our caterer today is Tim Burdett. Let's give them a big round of applause for all doing a great job. We have a few guests with us today. With Jim Corbridge, we have his daughter Lauren Corbridge. You want to give us a wave? With Mark Morris, we have Rick Pike. With Otto Wilhelm, we have Jan Toohey. And with Ben Whitney, we have Susan Yielding. Thank you all for joining us. If you have an announcement, make your way to the front now. Mark, you gonna lead off?
So I was asked to help Jay in a competition, and they're raising money to go to senior scholarship funds at Jay High School. And the competition is whoever, and there are several of us, raises the least amount of money has to kiss a pig at the halftime show at the Jay Grove ball game. Now Joel and others have said, I'm not donating, so you have to kiss a pig. But I'm going to tell you, here's the facts of the case here. I'm real ugly, the pig's real ugly, ain't nobody want to see that. So I'm going to pass this around. Please donate. It goes to Jay's Scholarship Fund.
At Lobster Fest this year, we had a live auction item that was a sunset cruise on the Blue Water Yacht at Shangri. I am needing a couple of Rotarians, preferably 2, to help with this event. It's on Sunday, September 21st at 5:30. I need a bartender and just someone else that can help on the cruise. If you could, please let me know. Thank you.
Fantasy football. Sign up ends August 27th. We still would like, we've got room for 3 or 4 more people, so if you'd like to, please either contact myself or Tom Riggs. And the in-person draft will be September 2nd at the McHenry Knott Compound.
Hello, I am Casey Kennedy, and I am the cheerleading coach for the Special Olympics cheer squad of Home of Hope. And we were selected to go to the USA Games. That's the material on your table. And so to help us go, we need about 15 grand. And so we've got a chili cook-off fundraiser coming up. Dennis and Todd have volunteered to be on the cheer-off for River. They're going to do the cheer portion and compete, right? No? Okay, they're not looking at me. So anyways, I really hope we need auction items, we need chili teams, we need judges. Anything that you guys want to do to help support us, great, thank you.
Hello everyone, I think it is time for a youth program sign up. So registration is going on now. We have NFL flag football that is new to the Y this year. We also have dance and we also have soccer. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 launches remaining this year in rural Oklahoma. The first first one is going to be September 6th. And it's going to be a Friday. It's a one-day launch, 150 boats. Then in November, we have 2 back-to-back. One of them is Anglers in Action. And that's going to be on the, I believe, the 7th of November. Right after that, we have a major tournament coming here. It's Major League Fishing's Toyota Series. There's 400 boats, folks. Okay? This is going to be a big one. And that's going to be during the week. And so we're going to need your help. I'll fill you in as we go point forward on timing and everything else. I'm just giving everybody a heads up that we have 3 launches left here on Grand Lake going forward.
My name's Rick Pike, I'm Chief Police and Jay. I just come to kind of put on everybody's mind that we will do that program again. We will do the program again this year. I think last year we done somewhere near about 400 kids, spending 150 apiece on them at Walmart. So just be thinking about it. We want to do a lot more.
Thank you, everybody. It is now time for the introduction of our program, Mr. Mike Williams, and I've got Cindy Hefner to intro him.
If one past president wasn't enough today, get 2. So let me introduce Mike Williams. He's our speaker today. Mike is the Director of Communications and Government Relations at Shangri. He has held that job since Eddie Gibbs bought that property back in March of 2010. Prior to Shangri, he operated an advertising agency and political consulting in Oklahoma City. His firm was credited with campaign successes for many political candidates, as well as some controversial issues that you may recall. Pari-mutuel racing back in the day, liquor by the drink, so those are all campaigns that he ran. Got some plaques there. He is a veteran of the media as well. He has served as the managing editor for the Oklahoma News Network and KWTV Channel 9 in Oklahoma City in his younger years. So he serves on the board of directors of our very own Grove Chamber of Commerce, the South Grand Chamber of Commerce, which is where I met him some 20 some odd years ago back in the day. He is also on the Lake of the Cherokee Sub-Watershed Association, and he is the Vice President of the Oklahoma Marina Association. He has been around Grand Lake in one form or another since 1972. He and his wife Carrie, and he'll let you know, she is definitely his better half. Would you agree? She's a sweet lady. They've been here full time since 1992. So please help me welcome my friend and who I'll call Mr. Grand Lake himself, Mike Williams.
Thank you for leaving out a lot of stuff, Cindy. So, here we are. How lucky are we to live at Grand Lake? How about that? And we have a 14-year-old boy to thank for it. Henry Holderman, Cherokee native, when he was only 14, first had the vision of building the Pensacola Dam and creating Grand Lake. He was 14. Must have been before social media, I'm thinking. So he had something else to do. But he stuck with that dream for 34 years before it ever happened. 34 years. Kind of true to how things are today. Here's a kid with no money and no contacts, and he's trying to raise the money to build Pensacola Dam and Grand Lake. So he had some issues with some shysters from England who were going to finance it. He had some issues with some shysters from Chicago who were going to finance it. And he got into some altercations about it. We're not sure exactly what happened, but he lost his temper a few times and ended up in Africa. and then in India. And it was in India that he actually learned how to build dams. Not like the Pensacola Dam, but earthen dams. And that's where he really gelled with the idea of building the Pensacola Dam. He and his brother actually went from beyond Twin Bridges on down all the way to Three Forks in Muskogee on a boat, on a canoe actually, trying to figure out where the best place was for the dam. And ironically, the place they picked was almost where the dam was built. They had a little issue with something they discovered later called the Seneca Fault, and the workers kept dropping their tools and losing them into a 600-foot crevice. So they actually moved 300 yards north, and that's where the Pensacola Dam is built now. So how did this all come about? Henry had the idea, but all he had was an idea. He had no money, but he began to gather supporters who wanted to do this. No funding, though. And then in 1933, President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, created the Tennessee Valley Authority, and that gave some smart Grand Lakers an idea. Pre-Grand Lakers, I should say. Maybe we could do something like the Tennessee Valley Authority. Well, as turns out, President Roosevelt was traveling to a rally by presidential train in Texas, and while he was there, some really smart guys called the Rainbow Chasers put together a coalition. They got with the city fathers in Veneta and passed a city ordinance that required that any time a presidential train passed through Veneta, it had to stop. Well, the president, not wanting to violate the law, stopped the train for a minute, he thought, but 5,000 people greeted his train. I didn't know there were 5,000 people here then, but that was the estimated crowd. And the Rainbow Chasers got his attention and said, we want to build the Pensacola Dam, or a dam, that wasn't named Pensacola at that time, that we want to build a dam because rural Oklahoma needs electricity. And you started this with the Tennessee Valley Authority. And he said, I never heard of such a thing. I've never heard of this. They urged him to go back and research it, and long story short, 2 years later, President Roosevelt provided the funding, $20 million, to build the Pensacola Dam. So we have Henry Holderman to thank for that, Franklin Roosevelt to thank for funding it, the Rainbow Coalition to thank for getting it done, and then W.R. Bill Holloway, who had created what people thought was a really stupid idea in Spavinaw to provide water for Tulsa. But it worked. And it still works to this day. That still is a major source of water for the city of Tulsa. And so the powers that be thought, well, here's a good guy to build the dam. Grand River Dam Authority had been created by the legislature in 1935. President, put together the funding in 1936. And in 1938, they began construction of the Pensacola Dam. 2,000 workers making big money, $16 a week, built the Pensacola Dam, the longest multiple arch dam in the world, in 2 years. Now, as an aside, I know some of you are familiar with the Siegfried family, who to this day, by the way, still retains membership number 1 in Arrowhead Yacht Club. They still retain the property at Hines Point, or as it's more popularly called, Whiskey Point, because that's where the workers went to meet the bootleggers when they weren't working. Got to spend your $16 on something, right? This is a 24-hour-a-day project. Probably one of the earliest lighted projects, construction projects in the United States. because they worked 24/7. So in 1940, March of 1940, they finished the dam. Governor Red Phillips did not like the idea of the dam opening because he was in a pissing match with the federal government. Back, you know, they still did it back then, states fighting with the federal government just like they do now. And he was contending that the federal government owed the state of Oklahoma $815,000 for what they had already done. And true to form, the federal government waited for him to die, and then they refunded the $815,000 to the state of Oklahoma. Don't want to give him a win. So he was irritated. He didn't want to open the dam, or I should say close the dam, close the gates to start the backfill to build Grand Lake. He didn't want to do it, and he gave orders that the gates were not to be closed until the $815,000 was paid. And W.R. Bill Holloway said, he didn't tell me that, and he closed the gate. And the lake began to fill. There had been terrible drought for 2 years in Kansas and Missouri, and they estimated that it would take 4 years for the lake to fill. Right after the gate closed on the Pensacola Dam, the biggest rainfall in the history of Kansas and Missouri hit, and the lake was filled by December of that year. Now, when I say filled, waterfront property was a little closer to the edge than it is now. Filled meant they had 27,000 surface acres of water. We have 46,500 today. The lake level, those of you who watch the lake level and try to make sure that it stays high enough, everything floats, the lake level was 713. Today, normal is 744. So there was a lot of waterfront property that's now just water property after that continued. So the dam was built, the lake was built, the lake was filled, and then came World War II. And actually the federal government took over control of the dam from 1941 to 1946 to provide power back up for the military. And then in 1946, there were big festivities when GRDA took it back over, and they have operated ever since. And we're very fortunate in that regard. The reason that you see so many developments around Grand Lake, the reason you can have a dock at your home is because Grand Lake is not controlled by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, because it generates power. So it's controlled instead by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Only 2 major lakes in this part of the United States enjoy that benefit: Lake of the Ozarks and Grand Lake. You go to any other lake in Oklahoma and you'll find lots of shoreline, but not many houses very close to it, almost no docks, because they're not allowed. Private docks are not allowed as a general rule on most Army Corps of Engineer lakes. So we're very fortunate in that regard, and that led to a lot of development on Grand Lake. Interestingly enough, the Corps of Engineers to this day puts at the bottom of their list as a little aside almost, another purpose of lakes, recreation, kind of recreation maybe. Mostly it's about power, it's about flood control, but they don't really promote any recreation. We're fortunate in that regard because we have built a mecca of recreation at Grand Lake, largely because we're not controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. So when the lake was being built, there were a lot of areas that were flooded, of course, that previously were farmland. There was a lot of arguing about that, especially when the land at high prices was selling at $85 an acre. Most of it sold for about $35 an acre. And that led to a big discussion one day. There's always questions about how Monkey Island got its name. Let me give you an aside on this. Any of you guys use artificial intelligence yet? Are you using that much? Are you? Be careful. Be careful. I clicked on the bottom of a Facebook post the other day. There's a new Facebook page, Monkey Island, Oklahoma. And they put a post out, and at the bottom of it was the little AI deals. I'm sure you've seen them. Say, you want to know more about Monkey Island? So I clicked on it. Artificial intelligence, that smartened me up right away. Sure enough, it said Monkey Island is located on Lake Eufaula, Oklahoma, and got its name in the 1960s and 70s from a man who sold monkeys there. What the hell? Now that intelligence is artificial for sure. Nothing true in that. So here's the story. The Lee family, who owned most of what is now Monkey Island, it was farmland then, were with some friends of theirs from Bernice visiting the Oklahoma City Zoo. Or not the Oklahoma City Zoo, I'm sorry, the Tulsa Zoo. And they were discussing the lake and the rising waters and what was going to happen. As they stood looking at the monkeys, their friend said, you know, you guys are going to be like those monkeys. When that water comes up, you're going to be on Monkey Island like those monkeys are. And a reporter from the Tulsa World happened to be nearby, overheard the story, wrote a story, it stuck, and ever since, Monkey Island. So that's the true story. And by the way, it's not on Lake Eufaula. So, as things developed around the lake, and the water came up, Grove, Monkey Island, how about Grove Island? Grove was surrounded by water. There was no access to the north. The only access was the original bridge at Honey Creek. And so if you wanted to get to Grove after the lake was filled, you had to either go this way north and go almost into Arkansas and come back to Grove, or you had to go from Langley all the way around the lake and try to get across the little Honey Creek Bridge there. So, City of Grove, with all the foresight, fixed that problem. They tore down that bridge. But in the meantime, they built Sailboat Bridge. Sailboat Bridge was another project opposed by Governor Red Phillips. I don't think he liked this much. So he opposed that project. So when Sailboat Bridge was built, at a cost, by the way, of $369,000, but that's the bridge. That doesn't get a road to it. And Governor Phillips refused to allow the Department of Transportation to build approaches to the bridge. It's like that one that's down in Horse Creek now. It was an unfinished bridge, an unfinished road to a finished bridge. So the city of Grove, that's when the city began taking the bull by the horns. They raised the money locally to build the approaches to Sailboat Bridge. And finally, Grove had access despite the construction of Grand Lake. Now the Honey Creek Bridge was actually replaced when it was torn down in 1942, right after the lake began to fill, and they ran a ferry instead. The Honey Creek Ferry ran across there, replaced the bridge. And then in 1946, they built a new bridge with a cost of $188,000 to build the new Honey Creek Bridge. Now, a little bit later, now we're into our era, we replaced both bridges. Sailboat Bridge, remember it cost $369,000. It was replaced in the year 2000 for $25 million. $5 million more than the cost of construction of the Pensacola Dam. Honey Creek Bridge, then, you'll recall, in 2005 was also replaced with a new 4-lane we had there at $11.5 million. The original cost of that bridge was $188,000. The new bridge was $11.5 million. So we've come a long way. We've pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. Grand Lake has developed as a tourism mecca. Grove has grown, new event center coming, new retail happening. We have a lot of things that are happening now because Grand Lakers have never lost that spirit of can-do, have never lost the vision of the future, and we continue to look that way. Notwithstanding obstacles that have come between us, continuing fights between the state government and the federal government, but we've overcome those. Again, how fortunate are we to have the Grand River Dam Authority standing in that path to fight for us, fighting with FERC. If any of you have ever tried to get a dock permit, how would you like to deal with FERC directly and not have a GRDA on your side trying to do that? I know some people have done that. It took them 6 years. Not that it doesn't take about a year already, right, Pete? I mean, it takes a while anyway, but it's so beneficial to have a GRDA fighting on our side. So we've done all of this development in the past. We have taken what was nothing but farmland in the Sandy River Valley and created Oklahoma's grand jewel of tourism, and we have all benefited from it as everybody grows. And now we look to the future, and we continue to do that. Look what's happening right now. I mentioned a little bit earlier the new event center in Grove. Also, there are a lot of other developments happening around the lake, new ones. Vintage Pines, I don't know if you're familiar with Vintage Pines. It's a long, undeveloped property directly across the lake from Shangri, the large bluff there. Going into Woodard Hollow. And now that is Vintage Pines, owned by Joe Hart. We bought it from Ratcliffe Capital, and he's building a home on the end of the point there. There's another home under construction there. There's a wedding venue under construction. So that's one thing that's growing. Brett Frost has a new development in Ghost Hollow, Sunny Shores, a 30-acre residential development. There's Rose Rock. I'm sure you guys have heard some about Rose Rock on Monkey Island. That's a development plan by Brooke and Colby Fuser. The Fuser family has, originally from Fairland, has owned that property for decades, but they are now planning Rose Rock development, a development of 350 homes ultimately, with 7 retail centers. So that's a planned development that's happening on Monkey Island. The Department of Transportation is working as we speak today, widening the bridge to Monkey Island. They have also approved projects, thank God for the Cherokee Nation's assistance, to widen the road from Grove to Jay. They have on the plan for 2028 a road project on Highway 59 up to the intersection with 125 in 2030. Plan to go continue that onto the turnpike. There are a lot of things happening, but a lot of people have led the way and paved it for us. We talked about the naming of Monkey Island. I forgot to mention the naming of Grand Lake. You know, the Pensacola Dam, that in Lake Pensacola, that confuses people from Florida. But it got its name. There was a 100,000-acre ranch named Pensacola there. And when the federal government's trying to name projects like this, they look for some nearby landmark. There wasn't anything there, so they named it after that ranch, Pensacola. Today, still, if you deal with the Federal Energy Department, you can't talk about Grand Lake. They don't know what you're talking about. They know it's the Pensacola project. So, and by the way, the Grand Lake name that we have now, Grand Lake of the Cherokees, even though the contest done by the Tulsa World and the Bonita Journal back in 1940 to name the lake, the federal government didn't recognize that name officially until the 90s. But we didn't care. We went ahead and did it anyway. So where did that come from? Grand Lake of the Cherokees. As I mentioned, the Bonita Journal and Tulsa World had this contest. What are you going to name this big hunk of water now that we have? And so they did a contest. And Marguerite Buffington Warner won the contest. She suggested that it be named Grand Lake of the Cherokees. And to this day, there are still arguments and discussions. What's the O for? A lot of people think it's for over, because the lake was over some sacred burial grounds originally from the Cherokee Nation. Some people say that it's of, because this land belonged to the Cherokee Nation, Grand Lake of the Cherokees. And finally, before she died, Marguerite did an interview and they said, "So what is the O for?" She said, "I just thought it sounded cool. I didn't really have it." So now you know that. Monkey Island is not on Lake Eufaula. There was no guy there selling monkeys. The O doesn't stand for anything at all, but we still have those people to think. And we honor those people at Shangri-La, where all of our conference rooms are named after people who had some major role either in the origin of Grand Lake or in the history of Shangri-La Resort. First and foremost, the largest ballroom. Thank you, President Roosevelt, for the money. The Roosevelt Ballroom. Thank you, Henry Holderman, for thinking up this idea. We have the Holderman Ballroom. Thank you, Mr. Hallway, for building that dam and building our lake. We have the Hallway Ballroom. George Nye, who passed away 2 weeks ago, his celebration of life was in Oklahoma City last Thursday at the age of 98. As an aside, at the Democratic State Convention, he gave a speech a month before he died. And it was right after his 98th birthday. He said, "You know, nobody wants to be 98 unless they're 97. So we have, he put Grand Lake and Shangri-La on the map in 1982 when he brought the National Governors Conference to Shangri-La. So we have the Nye Ballroom. And then we have one final ballroom named after my old friend George Overton, who many of you might have known. He was, in the Charles Davis heyday, the general manager at Shangri-La for 20 years. And so the final ballroom there is Overton Ballroom. So we pay tribute to those who brought us to this point, but we want to be sure and recognize those who are going to take us forward and who are already taking us forward. How about this group? How about the largest non-metropolitan Rotary Club in the state? You guys do an incredible job of moving everything forward. Thank you for all you do to support education with the Yeti group and others. I have 4 children with master's degrees because they went to school at Broad. So thank you for what you do. Thank you to the Grove Area Chamber of Commerce, undoubtedly with the leadership from Amanda and Connie, the most aggressive chamber in the state of Oklahoma. We're so fortunate to have them. We would not have many things we have now, including Shangri-La Resort Hotel. We could have built the clubhouse, we could have built the golf courses, we could not have built the hotel without the advances of internet service and broadband brought to us by Bolt and REC. We couldn't grow like this without that. Almost no non-metropolitan areas have the kind of internet access that we have. So thanks to Bolt for bringing us quickly into the 21st century. How about your award-winning Convention and Tourism Bureau in Grove? Red Bud Award winner says best in the state. We're grateful also, of course, always for the Cherokee Nation, the incredible contributions that they have made. I mentioned the road to Jay, that, you know, they were instrumental in getting that done, funding it. And they continue to support our schools, continue to support our communities, continue to support our transportation systems. We're so fortunate to have them here. So I say all that to say this, that while we look in retrospect at the people from Henry Holderman on, and look at the people that have led the fight to build Grand Lake what it is, we need to thank those who are moving forward now and leading us into a future, because our future is certainly as bright as our past. And in hopes that in business, in economic development, as in our personal lives, that we'll always look forward, not backwards, appreciating always those who brought us where we are, but always keeping our windshield bigger than our rearview mirror. Thank you for your time.
Great job, Mikey. I'm sure he'll stick around if you guys have any questions. Next week's program will be Tanya Andrews with Green Country Tourism. We're going to pick up all of our tables and chairs today. Does anybody else have any final announcements before we wrap up today? All right, everybody wants to stand for the four-way test.